Hello and good morning. I hope everybody's had a lovely weekend. So welcome to our Institute of Hospitality CPD webinar this morning. My name is Jo Meredith and I'm your host for this morning. And I've got a wonderful panel of experts who's joined me this morning. And we're going to be talking about how best to communicate and engage with our teams within hospitality. So but before we get started, just a few housekeeping items that I need to go through with you. So please, if you want to ask us questions, and we're happy to take as many questions as possible, please use the function on your screen and we'll try and answer as many questions as possible over the next hour. Remember that over the next hour, this can count towards your CPD hours. So remember to record this in the CPD area on your members dashboard. We are recording the webinar and it will be available on our on-demand channel on our IHO website. So please keep that in mind in case you wish to refer back to what we've been talking about this morning. So now we've got all the housekeeping out of the way, let's start by introducing our wonderful panel this morning. So I don't need to introduce them, they can introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves and why they're members of the Institute of Hospitality. So who would like to go first? Any volunteers?
I'm happy to go first.
Well done, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jo. Thank you. It's lovely to be here with everyone. My name is Mary Enyolu. I am a trainer and a coach, and I run a business called Kando Academy. We're a training and development company. So we help organizations basically develop their teams and their leaders and help them build high-performing teams. And we like to say extraordinary leaders. So that's what I'm passionate about now. My background is law, but left that a few years ago to do what I'm doing now, because I'm really passionate about helping people be the best they can be, and that's really why I joined the Institute of Hospitality. So I'm really glad to be here to engage in this conversation with you all today.
That's a very interesting transition, going from sort of law to what you're doing now. So excellent. So looking forward to hearing what you have to say this morning, Mary.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you.
Liam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. Good morning, everybody. I'm Liam Hatcher, the Head of People and Development at CH&Co Group. So I am responsible and lead probably the best team in hospitality with regards to all things people and development. So I'm responsible for our people strategy at CH&Co, which is underpinned by two really key objectives, one which we refer to as Accelerate, and the other which we refer to as Grow with Us. So one is about business growth and being the best we can be, and the other is about career opportunities, certainly around growth, so development opportunities. So why am I in? I'm in because I enjoy engaging with the Institute's network, and there's lots of different networks, and also being able to contribute towards professional development, so sessions like this today. And ultimately, I believe that hospitality gives any of our people in any of our organisations the choice to be their true versions of themselves. So that's the reason why I'm in, that ability to be who you want to be whilst at work.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Liam. That's great. Sarah?
Yes, morning everyone. So I'm Sarah Powell. I'm the HR Director at Le Manoir 4 Saisons, so part of the Belmond Group, which is also part of LVMH. And I've been in hospitality all my life. I don't know any other industry. So I started off in operations, and then I moved over the past kind of 15 years into HR and development. I'm gonna have to challenge Liam for the best people and development team in hospitality. But we're not here to talk about that, so we can move on. And then the reason that I said I'm in is because, similar to Liam, I think I just like the fact that you can get like-minded people all passionate about the same industry, all coming together. And there's so many different areas. So whether you like the golf day, the charity days, the branches, all these different parts of hospitality, I think there's something for everybody. And you kind of find your find your tribe, you find your people that support you and are happy to share ideas, which in some industries it's kind of kept a closely hidden secret, but I just like the openness that we all have in the Institute.
Excellent, good. And so just a little bit about me. I'm a bit like Sarah. I've worked in hospitality all of my life. I actually started washing up in a pub kitchen at the age of 14. I then trained to be a chef, and I was really bad at it, so I didn't do that for very long. And then I sort of started in my path in human resources, and I've worked in human resources for the Compass Group, for Le Méridien Hotels, and also at the Ritz in London. I was actually at the Ritz for 14 years as HR director. I left there back in 2018 and started up my own HR consultancy company. So I work with lots of different organisations now, not just within hospitality, outside hospitality as well. But hospitality is always my go-to. There's always so much passion, you know, and I really enjoy, especially when I'm delivering sort of L&D sessions. It's always much more fun with people within hospitality. And I'm also really passionate about attracting people to our industry and helping people to grow within our industry as well, because I think it's such a great industry and you can learn so much and there's so many opportunities available. So now you know a little bit about us, about your panel this morning. Let's start our conversation. So I think, you know, a really good conversation starter is, you know, what is good communication? What does good communication look like? So who would like to start us off with that conversation?
I'm happy to start us off, and I'm sure Mary, Sarah and yourself will join in. I think it's a really good question to start with, Jo, because I think probably don't always appreciate the true meaning of communication. And when we think about what is communication and what makes good communication, and I often remind my team about this, it's simple messages that have quite good or really high impact. So quite often communication leads to action. So what is the message behind the action that we need? So what's the objective? So we like to approach communication, or good communication, by keeping it really, really simple, really, really short, inclusive, uncomplicated language, so that everybody is able to understand it, and also appreciating what platforms or methods of communication you're going to engage with. So what makes good communication for me is simple, well thought through communication that's likely to result in an action. I guess. Yeah.
Excellent, very good.
Yeah. Just to add to what Liam said, I remember a quote by, I think it's George Bernard Shaw. He said the problem with communication is the illusion that it's taken place. So very often, because we do it all day, every day, we think we're communicating just because we're speaking. But I think what he's trying to say is, you don't communicate when you speak, you communicate when your words actually land correctly and passes on the information you're hoping to pass on. So just adding to what Liam said, for me, as we all probably know, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it, it's a tone of voice, it's the body language. I mean, we're told that only about 7% of what people receive when we speak, they get from our words, the rest they get from our tone of voice and our body language, which can be a bit challenging in today's world where we're mostly communicating in written form, you know, text messages and emails. But I think it's worth bearing that in mind, that it's not just the words you say. So it's how you say it. It's also, I think, your thought and what you really believe in terms of passing that information across. I love quotes. Another quote I remember, I can't remember the name of the person who said this. He said, "Who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." So I think one element of communication that we tend to maybe not appreciate and put a lot of emphasis on is the integrity aspect of our communication, where our thoughts, our emotions, our words actually match what we're saying, because very often people will do what they see, not necessarily what they hear.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'll always remember when I first started in hospitality, my graduate program, I was given a lot of projects, and they weren't really landing and nothing was really happening, and I was getting really frustrated. And the director of operations at the hotel where I was based sat me down, and he could see that I was frustrated, and he said something on the lines of, remember that it's your communication, therefore you're responsible for the message. And I was blaming everybody else for not listening to me, and he completely turned it around in my really young little brain to realize that actually it was my responsibility that my message was not landing. I wasn't communicating enough. I wasn't communicating in the right way. I wasn't communicating to the right people. And I agree with Liam, you know, it's got to be short, sharp, simple. We're all busy. And so if you know, my worst thing is if someone sends me an email that it's just a huge long list of things and bullet points, and then or in the middle of that there's the one thing that they actually need from me. So I think the short, sharp, also, you know, clear, transparent, and for me a big key to good communication is you need to know who you're communicating to. Because I always, we have lots of different people who work in our industry with lots of different levels of English, and so if you want the message to land, it has to be who is going to be reading this and what do I want them to take away from it. I think that's the main thing. If I want to just battle them with science, then I can do that, but actually what is it that once they've read this communication, what action are they going to take? What are they going to do with that information? So I think good communication for me is a mixture of what everybody said, but definitely what does then that lead to? And is it the right way that it's been done, to know if it was good or successful?
Yeah, definitely leading to some kind of action, because so many times we can say, oh, what do you mean you don't know? I've told you that. But, you know, and if that message just doesn't land for that person, you know, it's a waste of that effort of that communication. So communication, obviously, there's a skill to being an effective communicator. So you know, what are the skills that make an effective communicator?
I think good listening skills as well. Communication obviously is two-way. Just picking up on what Sarah said, you know, you've given instructions to someone and you expect that they understood what you've asked them to do and you want them to run away with it. But I suppose, again, good communication is getting feedback from them to be sure they actually got what you said, and for you to get an understanding of their understanding of what you said. So I think good listening skills is a key part of good communication, and listening to understand, especially when you start to go into the realms of conflict resolution and things like that. Listening to understand, not just listening to speak. So key element of communication, I would say, is listening. But also, again, picking up on what Sarah said, is learning to read people. We talk about emotional intelligence these days. Is learning to read people and learning to understand people. Because Sarah said, you know, if you send her a whole, you know, email with loads of information and loads of bullet points, she just wants to cut to the chase and get to the bottom line. And there are lots of people like that just want to get to the bottom line. But there are other people who love a lot of information and they love a lot of detail. So in my experience, is getting to know people and getting to understand them so you can communicate with them in a manner that they can receive, in a manner that they want to be communicated with. So one glove fits all, I don't think is always the best way when it comes to communication.
No, exactly. It's tailoring that communication, isn't it? That's really important.
I think it's Mary makes a really good point, and I think a skill is having the ability to know the audience, and I think people generally do know who they're communicating with, and being able to modify your behaviours and or the environment that you're in to make sure that the communication is really understandable and it's been received really, really well. And we typically, and certainly in my team, will often refer back to, and another point that Mary's made, the listening dips. And for the L&D people watching today, you'll appreciate this. It's within majority of trainer sessions, people generally tend to listen to the first 40 to 60% of what's being said to them. And if we apply that principle to reading, it typically is the same. So it's really, really important, and it's a skill, I believe, to be able to apply your main objective or your main message within the first paragraph and or sentence that you're talking about, to enable you to elaborate more. So being mindful of your ability to modify your behaviours, certainly in certain environments that you're in, and having that skill to judge that environment, but also I think being mindful that people will only listen to the first 20 to 30 seconds of what you're saying, and you need to hook them for them to really listen in and pay closer attention.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Liam. We do a lot of at Le Manoir. We have 39 years of history with Raymond, and so there's a lot of history there. And so what we do is we use storytelling a lot to really make our point and to make people part of it and to include everybody. So I understand that it's very important to use the why. You need to know that and why it involves you, but actually at Le Manoir, it's the whole legacy, it's the whole history, it's the story. And we do a lot of training with our team on the art of storytelling, how to tell a good story, how to grab the guests from the first moment and bring them into your world, and to help that then to ease the communication throughout their stay. And so definitely grabbing attention, and to me, storytelling is a skill. When you don't have that book in front of you, it's very difficult to stand there in front of a guest and to recount a story of 39 years of history and to get them enthralled. And some people do it fantastically. They're kind of a natural, but some people, it takes a little bit of time. It takes quite a lot of confidence to stand there and tell someone else's story to capture people. And I agree with what Liam and Mary were both saying about listening. I think it's a definite skill that needs work. And we talk a lot about active listening, but a few weeks ago I read something that talked about mindful listening, and it was actually, you can actively listen to somebody, but if you mindfully listen, you're actually there, you're present, you're taking in everything, and you're not formulating your response. Because a lot of people, you can see they're just waiting for you to stop talking to jump in, and we're all guilty of it. And it's because we're so busy, I think I need to tell you that, so I'm going to jump in the first second I can. But it's just that more so being present and really listening, would then be able to communicate fully afterwards, rather than just slotting in where you can fit. So I definitely agree with everybody there.
It's really interesting.
It's really hard, can't it, to for that that listening, like you say, hospitality can be very fast paced, and so sometimes we only listen to the bits that we want to hear sometimes as well. Sorry, Liam.
Sorry, Jo. Sarah made a really good point, and I love the storytelling, and it's so relatable to experiential listening. So the storytelling will give somebody a feeling of experience, so they will have experienced it. And when we relate it back to customer service, first impressions are lasting impressions. The story makes an impression on somebody, they're more likely to be able to recite the story and remember the key facts from that. And it just really resonates with me, and it stands out that the storytelling as a method of communication becomes experiential, and they're more likely to engage with, or your people are more likely to engage with the story that they're told. Really good point.
It's really impactful, isn't it? And that, and then people remember, if they are interested in that story and something resonates with them, then they're going to remember that.
Yeah.
So as well as storytelling is obviously a really good way to help people to become more effective communicators. How else can we help our teams to be more effective in communication?
I think it's giving them the opportunity. I think people don't realise, they think they can just, because they can speak, they can communicate. But I think actually I've seen people really try at a briefing to get the information across, and at the end everybody's completely confused as to what that service looks like. But they think they've done a great job because they've briefed everybody. So I think sometimes it's, as a manager for the team underneath, it's to give them the opportunity to do that and to make the mistakes and to learn from the mistakes, because unless you're giving them feedback, unless they're making those mistakes, they're going to keep communicating in the same way. So I think definitely just a little bit of coaching, a little bit of mentoring them through the process. Feedback is always crucial to that, and also having a team that is open to giving feedback, because sometimes the team will sit there and say, yes, I completely understand, and then they go back and say, I don't know what just happened there. So it's just having that, again, that open communication, that everybody can be honest and feedback, and just to reflect and learn from that. And as I always remember that director of operations saying, it's your responsibility. I've never forgotten that. So I think just having that, something that resonates with you as to how to communicate better, is definitely something that I've seen work. So practice makes sort of perfect in the world of communication.
I think also training, giving training, because like I said, when we started, because we do it all day, every day, we assume we all know how to communicate, but it's a skill. And yes, there are some who might be naturally good at it, but like any other skill, it can be learned. So giving training on how to communicate, I think, will help. And like Sarah was saying, creating an environment where people feel they can speak up, I think it's important. We encourage our clients to have what we call mastermind groups, where it's not somebody coming and teaching, it's you taking maybe a value of the institution and say, what does this value mean to you? How do we express this in our day-to-day working environment? How do we actually live this out as a team? And everybody can mastermind and talk about that value. And just in that conversation, you'll be amazed at what you hear, the feedback you get from members of your team, how they interpret that value and whether it's important to them or not. So I think sometimes just deliberately facilitating a space where people can just come and share will encourage people to speak up. Number one, you're telling them their view matters. And like Sarah said, it will create that room where people feel comfortable to give their views and to give their opinions. And then obviously, like I said, giving formal training as well to build up those communication skills, I think will help.
I think it's Mary, you make a really good point around, and so did Sarah actually. I think it comes back to giving them the choice to communicate and appreciating that everybody will feel more comfortable communicating in different ways, so nobody's the same as the next person. And we certainly as an organisation have a number of platforms too that are our main platforms, that our people have the choice to engage with everybody at all levels in our business. So whether you want to have a conversation with our CEO, the choice is there. You can private message him on Yapster and open up a conversation, and we encourage that. But to Mary's point around training, it's the training, the confidence, and it's that capability. Do I have the confidence, and am I aware I have the confidence and the capability of communicating? But choice, I believe it comes back to choice. And if you make the choice to communicate, and you make the choice to learn how to communicate effectively, and you make the choice to engage with the right kind of platform or channel of communication, it's probably highly likely that you're going to communicate effectively and engage your people by opening the channels. So it's a two-way channel. I think that's probably quite a good way of good communication and engagement.
Definitely, and it goes back as well to you know, to communicate effectively, you have to understand about self and understand about you and the impact you have on other people, because how some people might react to me, other people might react quite differently. So understanding about self will really help us learn how we can more effectively connect, have better connections with people. And even if we have people that we don't connect with particularly well, it's about learning those small adaptations about how we can connect more effectively with them. That's really important. So Liam, you touched on there about different platforms for communication. So what do you use within your businesses for how you communicate with your employees?
We probably, and we'll follow up on this, but we probably have too many forms of communication, which I can't believe I've just said that in an open forum, but we probably have, and that's our attempt to be that's our attempt to be super inclusive and giving everybody the opportunity to communicate with us. So we have Teams, which is a collaborative working space, if you like, Yapster, which is a combination of Instagram and WhatsApp type forums. So it's a feed where we can communicate directly with individuals or groups of individuals. We also have a company magazine, which is sustainably friendly, and it's called And You. And this is a magazine that goes out to all of our people, so all 10,000 of them, across all of our brands. And what it does is it brings together the story of the entire business. So that's typically a one-way communication, and it's good news stories and less of the formal business, but more of the community, if you like. And one that we found really beneficial and actually real value from this is this year we've changed the way that we engage our people, so engagement surveys. So typically in previous years we've done annual surveys, or we've engaged with annual surveys. This year we're doing quarterly engagement surveys which have topics. Each of the quarter has a topic, and we found that our people are opening up more, not only through the engagement channels, but because of the channels they have to go through, say onto Yapster to complete the engagement survey or engage in competitions through the Anjou magazine, we're hearing more coming back to us through that engagement channel. Traditionally, they're one way, it's feedback back to us, we ask some questions, but the You Said We Did, we're getting responses back from them. So there's many channels that we use. They're all pretty effective, but we could probably be a bit smarter with how we engage with them this year. So defining what the purpose of each channel is, so that we can get the best from them, is what we're doing at the moment. But digital is probably where it's going. Less of although people like to read the magazines, it's probably more the digital world now, I think.
Who produces your magazine? Is that something done sort of internally, or?
Yeah, so we are really lucky that we have an internal comms and engagement team. So I have two people that work with me, and they specialise in internal comms and engagement. So they, along with our business partners and MDs, pull together and do an amazing job, the Anjou magazine. And they don't publish it, they don't design it, but they pull together the content. And to know that every single one of our people gets one of these and drops through their letterbox, and there's a choice there, they can either read it and engage with competitions and surveys and things in there, is brilliant. And our clients love it too. So our customers, we're an open book, they're there for them to read as well, so it tells them a different story as well.
Excellent, good, okay. So what else do you I mean, obviously, so I mean, you're a huge organisation, Liam. Sarah, how many people do you employ?
250 at Le Manoir. So it varies. I mean, we have our kind of team committee that meets every other month, and it's someone from each department, and then we call it Manoir Moves, and it's all about motivating and their opinion and their voice. So it all stands for something, and they all come together, and they nominate the employees of the month. They talk about all different topics that they want to engage us with. The GM sits on that in that meeting with HR. So it's something. It's not. I've sat on many that just became a little bit of a whinge and not really productive. So we've changed how it all works moving forward. We use our payroll system has an app where not only do you download your pay slips and you book your holidays, but we try to use the feed on that just for things that we would normally either print or just a quick kind of announcement or information that we want to get out. I think for me, two things that have really made the difference that I've seen is obviously being part of Belmont and LVMH. We have our Instagram pages. We've created an internal Instagram page, and whilst it's not internal in the sense that only employees can see it, it's open to everybody. The team can use it to post random things and to tag us in it that they've done throughout their day, and it feeds back into the storytelling we were talking about. So the gardens team will be on there, and they'll be snapping what's happening that day. The kitchen will be showing them that produce going into the kitchen and the dishes they're making. The restaurant team will be showing some training that they're doing, and so it really encourages them to just literally a snapshot of the day and tag us in it, so then everybody can see it. And that's really started to grow and really start to at the Manoir Life, the shameless plug there, but that's what you need to look at and get all the information there.
I'm looking at it now.
And then personally in my team, I use Trello as an online platform, because we're not all in the office at the same time. We're all working on different things. Some of us write things down, some of us don't write things down. We can break down projects, we can see who's doing what. It's a really visual tool where you can literally just have your list and then move things across, and it just really helps to get things back on track, to break down projects, because sometimes you're given such a big task and you think, I don't even know where to start, that it can sit on your list for weeks and weeks and weeks, whereas actually breaking it down, you can just achieve a small thing each day towards the end goal. So there's lots of different systems out there. I agree with Liam. Sometimes I've worked in companies and I want to post one thing out and have to put it on 20 different platforms, and I think this is a little bit too extreme now. There's over communication here, but I think if you have the right platform, I think it works really well.
I think that's quite interesting, Sarah, especially when you're talking about the Instagram platform that you've started. I think that shows a huge level of trust in your employees, that they can put out stuff about your organization, you know, just uncensored, as it were, out to the public, where the public could have access to it. I think that shows a huge level of trust. So that's really good. I mean, we work with different size organizations, some large, some small, and what I tend to say to clients is speak to your people and find out what works best for your organization. So again, it goes back to that two-way communication, so that you're not using, especially where you're trying to attract maybe a certain demographic. So young people, for instance, prefer to communicate with different platforms than maybe the older generation. So I think it's quite important to find out what works for your team and use that. WhatsApp is becoming more and more popular. And what I say to businesses that use WhatsApp for business is to lay down some rules, lay down some ground rules as to what goes into that group, what it's for, what the purpose of it is for. Because then when people start to post every and all kinds of information, people lose interest, and some people don't even check it because it just keeps coming, it never stops. So yeah, I think that would be my tip, to speak to your people, find out the way they want to be communicated, and zero in on those methods that work for you and your team.
Definitely, and yeah, I'm my sort of the HR within me, when I hear about WhatsApp groups within departments, is like, oh gosh, what are they talking about? As well as technology, do we still have sort of like, I mean, Sarah, you mentioned about sort of the meetings that you have, but those sort of face-to-face, like town hall type meetings, do they still work? I mean, or is it everything is digitalized now?
They're really important to our people, so we still do them. And I honestly think, and I say we still do them, we do them. And I think, honestly, if we took those forums away, I'm not entirely sure how we'd handle it, because our people value them. So we have various forms of the town halls, Joe. So we have Gather and Chat, which is for our Gather and Gather brand, and we have Vash Chat, which is for our Vacheron brand, and You're in Good Company for Company of Cooks. And they are quarterly 1 hour get-togethers hosted by our MDs, and very similar to how Sarah's explained them, and our business partners. But they're an opportunity to sit in a circle and to chat about the day's agenda, what's happened in the last quarter, what's coming up in the quarter ahead, but to give some really honest, truthful feedback to your business leader. They are incredibly valuable, and I sometimes pop in and might take along our people director, and we might pop in and just sit and listen. But giving our people that opportunity to talk and to share their ideas and thoughts is too valuable to, I think, underestimate their impact. Yeah, I think they enjoy them, and I think they respect the time that they're being afforded. Actually, I think they're too valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it gives them the time, it gives them the space. It also makes them feel included, because they're, like we say, they're communicated to. They've been told what's happening. They've been told what's going on. It's the same message then that goes out. So we, during the lockdowns, we did them every month virtually with all the team. They could dial in. We could talk about what was happening. We could show what was happening. We did all of those things, but it's that, I think there's a lot of technology out there that's an amazing tool, but I think for me personally, it will never take away that personal touch. And I think working in hospitality, our industry is people. And I just can't imagine doing everything digitally and then saying to the team, now go and smile and go and communicate that off the story that I've just emailed you. I think they have to kind of that and having Raymond as such a fantastic part of Le Memoir, because he is just naturally inspirational when he speaks and a natural storyteller. So to just have him in the room, the team will just soak it all up. You will never capture that if he emails it out to you. So I think that the face-to-face time that they can get with anybody, I think is really valuable. And I agree with Liam, if you take that away, then you're left with a WhatsApp chat with no emotion, nothing, just words on a page. So I think definitely having that face-to-face really works, especially for our industry.
It's really interesting. Sorry, Jo, your comment around the lockdowns. We have adapted and we've taken with us from the lockdowns leadership lives. So they were monthly updates, which are now quarterly updates. And as soon as we could get the town halls back, they were there and they were back in person. But our people were telling us, no, we want to see the leadership team, we want to hear from the leadership team. So these quarterly lives, which I facilitate, and I ask really tricky questions to the leadership team, because the team, I think, value them as well. So we're there with the CEO, the Chief Operating Officer, the CFO, the People Director, and some other of our leadership team, and they give a business update, really precise, and then we open the questions for half an hour. And some of the questions unfiltered are really, really valuable, and we ask them, and it's their opportunity to hear that quite meaningful, truthful response to what can be sometimes tricky questions. And again, to Sarah's point, they're incredibly valuable. I think I probably underestimate their value and appreciate how valuable they are to our people. Yeah.
Mary, do your clients do anything differently, or do you give them any other advice in terms of their sort of face-to-face type communication?
Yeah, well, again, it depends on the organization, but definitely I think creating the time and space is extremely important for people to speak, not just with, colleagues, but like Liam is saying, with the leaders. And sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's what's it called, social event. Sometimes they make it a social event, so sort of like a party-like kind of thing, it's a meeting, but it's presented as some sort of party-like event. And sometimes it's online. I have a lot of clients that still do this sorts of engagement online just because they find it convenient. You can't always have people in the same space at the same time, and especially where it's a meeting where the leaders, the top leaders are expected to be there. It's just more convenient to be online. Of course, like Sarah said, you can never replace that personal touch with people in the same room and you're getting the vibe of other people. But where it can't happen, then make it happen online. But I would say at the very least, make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think outside of hospitality, certainly a lot of my clients are still very much hybrid. Whereas, in hospitality, I think when we were allowed to come back to work, everyone was back at work, and obviously we have to be there in terms of service. So you mentioned a good point there, Mary, about sort of social events. So how do we think sort of the social events that we do for our teams, how do we think that impacts on sort of communication and engagement?
I'm happy to just continue. So I was with a client a couple of weeks ago, and they were having their strategic day for the senior managers, and I was doing a 1.5 hour session with them, and they were all talking about an event they had just before Christmas and how everybody loved it and how they should do more of it. And that just said to me, at the end of the day, people are people, and we are social beings. We love to connect with others. We love to communicate, but more than communicate, we love to connect with others. And sometimes that connection can only happen when you're in the same room and you're actually, just in the presence of someone where you can soak it in, like Sarah said. So I think the social events are quite important, obviously more so for some than others, again, depending on your personality. Some people loved the lockdown. They were happy working away at their desk by themselves. Some others, it was torture for them because they just love being with people. So, but generally, I think those social events are so important for people to come away from the work space in their minds, in their heads, and just engage with each other as human beings. I think it spills over into when you get back into work. It improves the working relationship when you get back into work. So I think they're indispensable, I would say.
Okay. Well, what do you think, Sarah?
I completely agree. At Le Mans, when we write the budget, we always write money into the budget every year for team building or team bonding, as we call it, but it's for departments to use however they want to. And I agree with Mary in the sense of you have to be mindful. It's not just to go down to the pub and spend the night there, because it's not for everybody. So it's an activity that really brings everybody together. And we've had all sorts of weird and wonderful. We've had karaoke. We've had everything that the teams have done. But I think it does make them a stronger team, because they start to communicate in a different way and they understand each other as actual people. And so I'm not saying it solves everything, but I think just getting to know somebody on a personal level and not a professional level, you can really get to know why they do the things they do, or why they are the way they are, and you have a bit more tolerance, you have a bit more understanding, you have more respect, and I think it works really well when you have all team events, because actually not only do you get to work with your department, but we work so closely with everybody else that we hold a Christmas party every year, and we weren't able to do it for 2 years, and it was really missed, and everybody had an amazing time when we held it this year, because it's always at the start of the year. But I just think just having that, and you could see everybody talking to everybody else in different departments, different places, different levels, but it was just everybody was there for the same reason. So I think anytime you can get your team together that's not work related, it's really beneficial for everybody involved.
I remember when I was at the Ritz, and the most popular thing was bowling nights. Everyone loved to go bowling. So that's good. Liam, what about yourself? Because obviously you're on a bigger scale there. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, we are, and very similar to Sarah. When we're writing the budgets, it's something that we write into the budget. So we do have to approach it with a tier in our minds. So if we come across the business, but I think it's empowering the managers to be able to create that sense of community and understanding the value that it brings. So whether it's a regional operations manager bringing their team together monthly, quarterly, and they're doing something that's for the team and it's not in the context of business, they're empowered to do that, and we enable them to do that. If it's an operations director or an MD bringing their people together, we try not to overstructure them, so that they know that they're able to do them, so that they are bringing together their team in an environment where it's not in the context of business. This is about us and our relationship and how we come together. I think we also take it a step further. So we talk about something in the business called social leadership, and I'm going to take it back onto technology, onto Yapster. So Yapster is very similar to Instagram, and it's very similar to what Sarah described with their Instagram page for their people. The social leadership concept is our leadership team at all levels, whether you're a location manager, an MD, a finance director, me, engaging with our people by commenting, liking, rewarding them, recognising their hard work, creates that people begin to really engage with it, and you can see conversations taking place between our CFO and a kitchen porter that's just completed a really long day, been really busy, and the CFO saying, great job, you've done amazingly well, I look forward to seeing you soon. The value that will bring to that individual, that the CFO has taken 15-20 minutes out of their day to recognise them, is huge. So it's a balancing act, Joe. We understand the value in a big organisation like ours of bringing our people together and enabling it, but we also understand and appreciate the value of engaging with our people on social platforms, and we refer to that as social leadership. Yeah.
Excellent. So you mentioned earlier, Liam, about how that you've got lots of different ways that you communicate. What happens when we sort of over communicate to people? What's the impact of that?
I think really simply, we disengage them, so the communication becomes ineffective. There's too much, and we do it in our own lives. If there's too much on social media platforms, or too much coming into our inbox, or too much coming through our letterbox, we don't take notice of it, and we unconsciously ignore it. So we need to be really specific with our communication, how often we're doing it, what messages we're sharing. So the risk is too much, and the message, the purpose is completely lost. So we often point, what is the point you're making? What evidence do you need to back up that point? And how are you going to add some character or some personality to it with a comment? But I would quite simply say too much will become too little, because they just won't engage with it. We do it. We spam things that can go into the junk box because HelloFresh have emailed me 5 times in 1 week. We disengage with it because it becomes too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Liam. I mean, in public speaking, we talk about the power of the pause, where you're speaking and then you deliberately pause just before you make a big point, or just after you make a big point, to give people the opportunity to actually assimilate what you're saying. Otherwise, it can very easily become background noise, where they can hear the speaker droning on and on and on, and you just switch off. And I think it can be likened to that when we over communicate. Like you say, it just becomes noise, and then people disengage, people switch off. It's just another email comes in, or can't be bothered. So definitely, I think you can have something like over communication. So communicating intentionally, I think, is key. Sometimes less is more. So thinking about what you want to say and how often you want to say, how often you want to touch base with your team. Every day might be too much for some, every day might be too little for others. I think it's being clear on how often and what exactly you're going to say, so you don't over communicate, because it's a thing, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everybody. What everyone said. It completely dilutes the message. It shuts people off. And I think just agreeing, especially as I work from different places, I'm not always on site, and so we always have an agreement of how much communication, what that looks like, and it's just that kind of snapshot in time to communicate. I think if it was, you know, if my team wrote down everything they did every day, it's when I'm not on site, it's just you wouldn't read it. It just loses the power that you're trying to get across. It loses the impact. I've walked in to, you know, sites and they've got notice boards and they've got things on top of things. They don't take anything down, and you look at it and you just think, what am I supposed to read? And there's one thing on there that talks about payday, and it is just hidden amongst everything, and everybody walks past it as though it's the wallpaper now. And so I think if you're not making it engaging, if you're not attracting people, where are you drawing their eyes? Then it just becomes a wall of wallpaper that is never looked at. So definitely there is such a thing as there's under communication and over communication. So I don't know which is worse.
It's about getting that balance, isn't it? And it, you know, I guess it could be confusing for people, because if they want to find something out, it's like, well, which platform do I go to for that? And, you know, where can I find that information? So, you know, that it's about finding that balance. So, you know, we've spoken about how impactful communication can be, but what happens when it goes wrong? What happens when that message doesn't land and things start to sort of spiral out of control? How do we deal with that?
I think for me personally, it goes back to what I said right at the start, and that my little director of operations give me that message that I've seen it many a time, because it can cause, for the person who's communicating, it can cause such frustration that, well, I did say that, I did send it out, I have let you know. There is that real, and we spend more time being frustrated than more time looking at, well, why didn't that land? Was it the wrong platform? Was it in the wrong way? Was it on the wrong day? You know, I had something to send out to the team and I thought, is Bank Holiday Friday the best time to be sending this message out? Probably not. Yes, it ticks a thing off my inbox, but the message will not land. So I will send it out later. I'll delay everything and I'll send it out this week. So I think sometimes it can definitely go wrong, but I think the key is knowing what went wrong. What was it that went wrong? What elements of that communication didn't land, and to learn from it? Because I've seen so many people, they then passively aggressive forward the email and say, as per the email below, this is what you need to do. And it's all that's not helping, because straight away you've just shut everybody off from the rest of that email. So I think sometimes we spend, as I say, more time in the frustration element and not taking responsibility that it didn't land, than actually fixing the communication that went wrong and making sure that the next time it lands better than it did.
I think also looking at the signals you're getting, you know, from your team. I think that what I like to refer to as connecting signals, when people are verbal, when they're very expressive, they share their thoughts, they share their views, they share their suggestions. That's an indication that there's good communication going on in the team. Where people are prepared to go the extra mile, that's good indication that there's good communication, because people are connecting. That's why they're wanting to work together. There's high morale. All those things are good indications that there's great communication going on. So conversely, when you're noticing that people are not being forthcoming, they're not expressive, they're just always wanting to be on the receiving end, then that's a signal that there could be improvements in the way we communicate in this team. So I think the first thing would be to look out for those signals, and then to, like Sarah said, ask yourself, like I said initially, the onus is on the person communicating to make themselves understood, to make themselves heard. So find out, where am I going wrong? What am I doing? Where could I be improving? And be intentional. That's what Sarah was just describing. I love that. Being mindful and really thinking, how am I going to deliver this? When am I going to deliver this? So intentionality is key. I think bearing in mind all the things that could go wrong, spilling off bad communication, the misunderstandings, the conflict, the time wasted resolving the conflict, the productivity that drops. There's just so many things that could go wrong that hits the bottom line when communication goes wrong. So I think, again, it's making that choice, like Liam was talking about earlier, choosing to want to be that person that takes the time to communicate, conscientiously and intentionally, to make sure that things are moving smoothly, because at the end of the day, it's going to impact on the productivity and the results of the team. Yeah, so that's what I would say. Like, it's really, really important. Communication, really key.
I think it's going back to a point that Sarah made as well, as the please see below, as explained last week. And it's the old, and I learned this really early on and I don't use it anymore, but when I was in operations, I'll chase up and CC your manager into the email. It's why would you do that? But knowing the audience that you're communicating with, and being the integrity in communication, being able to just step back and hands up, we probably got that wrong, and being able to go out to a group of people and say, hey, we heard you, we got it wrong, or we've communicated to you in the wrong way, probably means more to them than it does you, by recognizing that you've done wrong. There are, in a big organization like ours, there are times, touch wood, not recently, where we have got it wrong, and having the ability to step back and say, do you know what, we did wrong, but we're going to learn from it and choose to learn from it. We've introduced something, and it's really, really simple. It's a communications matrix, and we all use them when we're doing relationship development, and we want to know who's closest to us, who's going to have the biggest impact, who can we rely on, who are change people. But by simply saying this message, it does result in an action, and this is how we're going to communicate with these groups of people. So these group of people that are the furthest away from our central support teams, people like me, will engage with them or communicate with them using these three methods. That prevents it from going wrong, but we got there because we recognised where we did get it wrong, and we needed to go into the detail a little bit more by appreciating all of the different groups that work in our organisation. So for me, it's hands up, we did it wrong, but changing old habits like CCing or blind copying people into emails is to just pick up the phone. I dropped you an email last week, I've not heard back from you, how do you feel about it? It's that verbal communication.
Good old, all users.
yeah, all companies.
Everyone's a listener.
Don't do it.
We've got a couple of questions. We're nearly coming to the end now. That hour has gone really quick. So Liam, there's one for you. So you mentioned about in your employee engagement survey, you have different topics. So what are the sort of different topics that you focus on?
So they are so really four simple. So me, my manager, my workplace, and my experience. So me is about the employee, our people's experience whilst at work. So with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, flip it up on its head, pop a quadrant in the middle of it. So me, my manager, my wellbeing and experience. We ask 4 questions. So the 4 questions are about them, about their manager, CH and Co, and then you've got a qualitative question in there, so usually an NPS question. So really, really simple. We want to know about you and your well-being, how your manager contributes to your well-being, how CH&Co contribute, and how you would score us, and then the same in another area as well. So really, really simple.
Okay, good, thank you. And then there's a question for all three of you. So if you could give me one tip about how to be a great communicator, what would that tip be? So Mary, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I would say communicating is always about the other person. It's not about you. So it's not about what you want to, or how you love to speak, or what you want to say. It's about what the other person needs to hear and how they love to be communicated with. So that was one lesson I learned a long time ago that's really helped me with my striving to communicate better and connect with others. Connecting, and I love to move beyond communicating to connecting. Connecting is always about the other person. So just going back to the example Sarah was making, because she was thinking about the other person who's going to receive the communications, thinking about the best time to send it, right? So if we always think, okay, this is the person I want to speak to, how best will they receive it? What's the best time for them? Always putting them first will definitely make us better communicators.
Okay, so thinking about the other person, good, thank you. Sarah?
I'd say in a similar vein, really. So whenever I send out a communication, if it's an email, for example, I'll write it. And then the email that I initially write is not the email that I send, because then I read it with my, okay, I'm a manager hat on, okay, what have I understood? Okay, I'm a supervisor, what have I understood? Okay, I don't have a high level of the ability to read English. So then I read it again and I change it and I tweak it. And so the message that goes is the message that, not that I necessarily wanted to send initially, but the message I know will land. And I usually do, if there's something that's changing, it's what's new, what does this mean for me, you know, so all the information's there, but if you want to cut to the chase and just to get one bullet point out of it, I point you in the direction of where your eyes should go and what you take away. So just sometimes we fire emails really quickly, then we've said, right, we've done it, they know what they're doing, but then the amount of responses you get back because they've misunderstood it, it's a waste of time then. So you just take the time and just bear in mind that the email that you initially write is probably not the one that you should be sending. Read it with different hats on, make sure that you understand what you're asking, and then press send when you're 100% comfortable that you're not going to get any responses.
Excellent, a great tip there. Liam?
I think for me, it's probably a combination of both Sarah and Mary, and you'll have heard this throughout all of today's session, making a choice of stepping back and choosing how you're going to communicate your message. Our default is, I'm going to pop it into an email. We'll then probably do what Sarah does and adapt the message in the email for the different audiences. But quite often I'll write an email and think, actually, I'll just call that person. Or I'll write a group message in the App Store and I think, actually, I'll just get them together because I want to see their faces. Stepping back before communicating and choosing how you're going to do it. Obviously, urgency will come into it and time pressures will come into it. So that's going to impact your choice that you make. But if you can choose to do it in a different way each time, I think is choose the way that you're going to communicate. Don't default to email.
No, yeah. and like you say, not doing it in haste as well.
Yes, take the time. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're nearly at time, so thank you for the questions that you've sent in to our panel. But thank you so much to our panel. You've all been amazing. I hope everyone's had a few good sort of key takeaways. You've had sort of 3 good bits of advice there in how to be sort of effective communicators. Before we go, just a reminder, so remember that this goes as part of your CPD hours, so please log those in the portal. And I just want to let you know about some exciting events that are coming up over the next couple of months. So this week on Thursday, on the 13th of April, we've got a conversation about employee benefits, and that's online between 10:30 and 11:30. Also on Thursday, you can find out about the Room to Reward charity. Again, that's online between 12 and 1. Our next CPD webinar is all about developing and implementing success in service recovery. So that's going to be on the 9th of May. Then our in-person event, which is Above and Beyond, which is at the Rosewood in London. So you can come along for some lovely drinks and canapes and meet a panel of experts. That's on the 22nd of May from 6 till 8 p.m. And then, of course, it's our charity golf day on the 25th of May. So to find out more information about any of those events, please go on to the IHO website to have a look. But thank you so much, panel. You've all given up your time this morning. I'm sure your inboxes are all filling up and you've got lots to be getting on with. But thank you very much for giving up your time and for all of your inspirational comments today. And thank you to everybody that was listening to us, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jo. Thank you.
Thank you.